have to start organizing more and preparing more for classes. You can kind of see that they understand that there is a little bit more weight as the quarter or semester progresses, that they need to start taking better notes, really being held accountable for what the assignments are and what is expected of them. So you kind of see a little bit more, I guess you can call it, they get a little bit more stressed out, those who need to fine-tune their organizing skills, or just to kind of be aware that they're not in junior high anymore.
Yes, I would say that as a class becomes more difficult, it kind of varies from student to student. Some students I notice become much more serious, they really buckle down, but I also think that in some ways, like, they kind of, I don't want to say like lose their personality, but as things get more difficult, I feel like they're just so focused on achieving and doing well that it's almost like they don't see the class as fun anymore. And not that classes have to be fun, but I do want my students to enjoy my class. And so with increased difficulty, obviously you see increased stress, and when kids are stressed out, they just don't seem to enjoy class very well. And then I would say maybe the flip side is that kids who, when it gets more difficult, they get discouraged, and then you almost see like an opposite, where you see kids, I don't know, like acting out is the right word, but the idea that it's become difficult and they're discouraged, and so then they like tune out of class and they're not as tuned in.
Schoolwork in college, definitely that would be more toward the senior crowd. Obviously college is a huge worry right now for those that are going to go on and do that. So I know the college essays are, I'm hearing a lot about that and where they're going to go and what they want to do. Some kids think they have to have those answers figured out right now. As far as the stress level that comes with that, is it kind of depends on family and how much stress is there for how soon they need to have those decisions made. I think it's always a good thing that if somebody doesn't know what they want to do, to take a year off. That's not a bad thing. It's not always has to be accelerated or on fast forward, that you need to have those answers.
I hear a lot of talk about who has what class, who has what teacher, what homework is due for each one of the classes, and I think students are pretty stressed out about making sure that all the assignments are done for each one of their classes, and who has what teacher next semester. Is it a hard teacher? Is it an easy teacher? Do they think they're going to have a lot of homework? I think that it's always on their mind.
It seems like most students, not all students, but it seems like a lot of students are very focused on learning the material so they can get a good grade on their test, and then they even tell me sometimes, like, as soon as I take the test, I just kind of like dump the information, which I remember is unfortunate for the final. But it does seem like a lot of students are very grade driven. They want to get the good grade, but not necessarily they're that concerned about learning the material or actually knowing it. They want to know it well enough to get the good grade. And then I think that relates to colleges. Like, I need a good grade on my transcript so I can get into this college, because if I don't get into this college, I can't do this next step in my life. And I feel like kind of like the love of learning has been lost.
I always try to accommodate. I always tell them it's not my job to add to their stress level, but I can accommodate it. So I mentioned the first day at school, if there's some sort of accommodations you need, or your workload is too stressful, or there's more going on with you that I'm aware of, that you need to come talk to me, that a conversation goes a long way. So what would I do? I just try to accommodate the stress. I know what stress is like, and I know how difficult it can be to manage, especially when you're younger. And with AP kids especially, they're signed up for many things outside of this class, so it's just kind of being aware of what's going on with them and just how much, and being empathetic in a way, sympathetic too, but firm.
If I could do anything to lower the stress level of my students, I would try to emphasize that grades aren't everything, and I know that sounds strange coming from a teacher, but when I was in high school, like, I got B's. I don't know if I ever guess I got a C in high school, but I definitely got B's and A's in high school, and I still consider myself to be a very good student. I still got into the kind of college I wanted to go to. I still ended up, being successful in college, being challenged in college. I'm very happy in the career I'm in now, and I just think that there's so much pressure that students feel like they have to be perfect and they have to get an A on everything, and that if they don't, like, their whole future is going to be in shambles. And I just don't think that's the case at all. And I try to tell students that, but they don't listen because, I don't know, because you're in your own moment, and I know you're concerned about your own life, but I just, like, getting an A isn't everything. And I think that kids stress themselves out so much to be perfect, and there's just much more to life than that. And I also know a lot of students who feel like they've done everything right and they've aced every class and scored, gotten a certain score in the ACT, and they still haven't gotten into the school they want to get into. And I just don't think there's like some perfect formula you can follow. And I think wherever you end up in life is where you're supposed to end up. And maybe you didn't get into the college you want to get into, but the college you end up going to ends up being perfect for you. And so I just think people are so worried about reaching this specific place, and I just wish kids would realize that there's more to life than just that.
That's a hard question. If it were possible to calm them down, maybe begin the day with 10 minutes of yoga or something to give students a centered base from which to operate. So much of the stress that I see from students, it's caused by exterior forces, but magnified by interior forces. They don't know how to plan. They know an assignment is coming, and yet they don't start on it early, so it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that the night before they start cramming for it, and then they don't do well. Well, of course I don't do well. I don't know what I'm doing. Too much stuff. If we could somehow get students to have time in the day where they could not fritter it away, but actually get stuff done. If there was a moment when it's very Eastern, if we could meditate, if there was a Zen moment every so often, I think if we could really get students to calm and center themselves, a lot of this stress would dissipate, because they start from a better, more solid place.
I think it's because we're trying to build academic character as well as personal character, making sure that you're responsible for everything you sign up for, everything that is expected of you. So I think a few changes have been made because it's character building. It's good for you to be stressed out and to have a lot to do, because it will help you organize and prioritize.
I feel that few changes have been made regarding stress and resiliency, because it's kind of a parent issue. It's our job as educators to help kids be able to handle disappointment when it happens on a test or in class. However, personally as a parent, I think it's my job to prepare my kids to be able to handle difficult situations in the real world.
I think there have been very few changes made to help reduce student stress, because I don't unfortunately think that it's just a problem within the school itself. Like, I feel like teachers can be and probably should be doing more things to reduce stress, but it's not just teachers who need to be talking to students about this. I also feel like it's from home, and that students have a lot of stress put upon them by their families, but I think also by society, an American society, which is very like competition driven, and we're very much a society that seems to kind of pit each other against, we pit students against each other, or we pit people against each other instead of thinking about maybe how can you improve yourself. So instead of thinking about how can I do better this time than next time, we're always looking at, oh, are you doing better than somebody else is doing, instead of thinking about just how we can better ourselves. And so again, I think it's kind of a whole society problem. And that's not to say that teachers shouldn't work to try to reduce stress. I just think that it needs to be bigger than just the school. And I also think students put a lot of pressure on themselves. And so it just kind of goes back to that idea of kind of giving yourself a little bit of a break and understanding that you don't have to be perfect.
It strikes me that one of the root causes is the industrial age, is the manufacturing line, and how the American education system has developed in a lockstep kind of approach. You're this age, you're in this grade. You're in this grade, you learn these things. You're in this age, you're in this grade, and then you learn these things. And we continually push the assembly line forward rather than adjusting to individuals, adjusting the system, even creating a different system that would take more individuals into account. Numerous studies have shown that teenagers work better later in the day. So why don't we start school later in the day? Well, we can't because there's busing of the other schools. We can't because there's activities after school that would go too late. We can't because we can't adjust the school year because we're expected to finish here and then start here, but we can't start before that, even if it would be better for our students to have that ability. But our education system's still stuck in that motif. And that would need a massive cultural shift. I think it'd be lovely, but I don't know that this culture is ready for